So in the first window, all the best quarterbacks won. And I do think Will Levis is going to be better than Desmond Ridder. He had 4 touchdowns today, but mostly the best quarterbacks won. You know, in the afternoon, Russell Wilson beat Mahomes. We'll get to that in a second. But it was a day in which the better quarterback, Mahomes, was sick, mostly won. I thought, I've said this before. It's one thing if your brother or sister was more successful than you and lives in another state or across town. But if they're more successful than you and they're your neighbor and you can see the cars and the beautiful house, it stings a little. It's one thing for Brock Purdy to struggle. But when he struggles at home on the same field with Joe Burrow, it's not great. And Burrow is brilliant. And Kyle Shanahan watches that and knows that, he lost to Mahomes in a Super Bowl. And Kyle Shanahan knows his dad won Super Bowls with Elway. And Kyle Shanahan was a coordinator and had Matt Ryan and got beat by Tom Brady. He understands it, that he's had a Garoppolo or his dad had quarterbacks in his career in Washington that weren't up to snuff. So when you have Burrow playing brilliant today and Purdy had that late fumble, what's the knock on Purdy? Small hands. Small hands equal fumbles. He got hit from behind. He had a really bad red zone interception, the kind of interception you just can't make. You probably couldn't find one of those in John Elway's career or in Patrick Mahomes' career. You can't throw an interception when a guy's 3 feet from you. He had another interception in the game. So now Purdy can make throws. He threw the ball 2 or 3 times today. Tony Romo pointed it out to George Kittle. Really big time throws. So I still think Brock Purdy has talent, but he's a 7th round guy. He's smaller, doesn't have a big arm, mobile, not fast, smaller hands. And I thought when you juxtaposed him with Joe Burrow today, same field, it really looked obvious. And by the way, I saw this all day today. Jalen Hurts with Sam Howell. Sam Howell's competent, but Sam Howell on the field with Jalen Hurts, last couple of drives for Washington, next to last drive, Sam Howell missed on one receiver. He had to go down, much more catchable ball if an elite quarterback threw it. Then he missed another guy, threw to the wrong guy. And that when you get a Hurts and a Howell, and organizations have to make decisions, or you get a Burrow and a Purdy, and organizations have to make decisions, it's really clearly the gap is massive. I mean, we saw Kirk Cousins, outperform Brock Purdy. That's one thing. You're on the road. At home, kind of ugly. And so, there's an argument to be made. And I don't think it's crazy. You know how years ago you're like, well, you can't draft a kicker. Well, they're often the leading scorer on your team. Of course you can. Of course you can draft a kicker. You can never take a running back in the first round. There's been a lot of great running backs taken in the first round and have been wildly productive. It's okay. You could probably make an argument, and Belichick did it about every second or third year, that you should draft a quarterback every year. Every year. Even if you have Tom Brady was in New England, they were still drafting a quarterback every year, every single year almost. And Garoppolo got drafted in the second round and Brady was winning Super Bowls. So I just look at San Francisco and you can say, well, they really missed on Trey Lance, but they hit on Brock Purdy for a 7th round talent. CJ Beathard, that was a little bit of a miss. Garoppolo trade, that was a semi-hit, got to a Super Bowl. It's okay. Draft a quarterback every year. There's an argument. There'll be some years you take 2 quarterbacks. You take one early, 2nd round. You take one late, 6th round. It's the only position in football that's worth more than a point. Think how good Jamar Chase is. He's probably worth 1 point a game in the NFL. And he is sensational. How about that sideline catch Dragon has put today? So I just thought when you put Purdy and Burrow on the same field in Santa Clara, is a bad look. John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, a couple times Purdy came back to the sidelines and you could see the facial expression of Shanahan. He wouldn't make eye contact with Purdy. When your dad was really mad at you and wouldn't make eye contact, just look to your mom and grimace. There's a couple of those looks. So, and Cincinnati, they're a very funny team. They just can't play in September due to various Joe Burrow injuries. But I said about 3 weeks ago, they were getting outplayed by the Rams and won, got outplayed by the Seahawks and won. Now they're outplaying people. This is a really good football team. Don't worry about Kansas City. We'll get to that in a second. Cincinnati's a really good football team. Weapons, run game, can play a little power, star quarterback, pass rush, playmakers. Really good football team. What to do with Kansas City's loss to Denver? Well, Patrick Mahomes was sick. I mean, most of us take a day off when we're sick. We don't play in the hardest sport in America. But I think what you saw today, you saw two things. First of all, Denver now has a run game, and Sean Payton has decided to play younger defensive players. They move off Randy Gregory. So they're playing with a much livelier spirit defensively, right? You know, you let the young kids drive the car. They're having fun now. They're playing a little faster than they were a month ago. And they're running the football. I thought their game plan was great. Running the ball, they've got a couple of capable backs. And what it does, it takes Mahomes out of rhythm. And Mahomes, not that he needs rhythm to be successful, but any quarterback wants to get in a rhythm. So when you sit on the bench, it's a 7-play drive, it's a 9-play drive. You're sitting on the bench watching. It's cold. You're sick. You're on the road. It all adds up. But there were two plays in this game, and this is really what you worry about. The trade deadline is Tuesday. So they've already made one move at wide receiver. But there was the Rashee Rice drop in the first half, really bad drop over the middle of the field. That was going to be a substantial gain. Bad drop. Then Sky Moore, I wrote it down here. Sky Moore had a drop for a touchdown in the end zone. This team is not a great team. It's got a great coach, a great tight end, a great quarterback, and a great Chris Jones in the defensive front. It's not a great team because in football now, weapons matter. Cincinnati's got them. Philadelphia's got them. The top teams in this league, Detroit's got them. Dallas could use one more, but CeeDee Lamb. Weapons matter. They don't have an elite wide receiver. I'd argue the Chiefs not only don't have a 1, they don't have a 2. Rashee Rice is nice. At this point, he's a 3 or a 4. Maybe by the end of the year, he develops into a 2. So they go to the Jets. They get a receiver who knows their system. He's a 3 to a 4. So I do think it's something. I think against the Cincinnati or a Baltimore, and I think right now those teams are as good, and they just have more speed on the outside. You know, Odell Beckham, T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, even Nelson Aguilar for Baltimore. These are veteran players who have been around. They can make plays. So there's a lot of things that compounded Mahomes' flu today on the road. Denver's running out of rhythm, lots of drops. But I would say the margin for error for Kansas City is slimmer this year. Think about it. Name the game they look great offensively. They haven't. They had a great first half, did the Chiefs, against Brandon Staley and the Chargers defense. They had a great first half. They really haven't put together a great game like what Cincinnati did today, where you really felt you were watching a Super Bowl level team, beginning to end. I mean, you watch Cincinnati, interceptions, defensive plays, sacks, strips, Jamar Chase, Burrow, long drives, quick drives. When they get the interception, turn around, Burrow to Jamar Chase, right side end zone, like quick strike. Like Cincinnati today, that's a masterclass on how to beat a really good team in the 49ers. Kansas City has not had one of those this year against a semi-quality team. Great half against the Chargers, who are a bit of an undercoached mess. So I wouldn't make too much of it, but I think it's a reality of what Kansas City is. They let Tyreek Hill go. They let Tyreek Hill go. Agreed with it for all the picks they got. But they're really young. Sky Moore, Rice, they're really young wide receiver. And those guys aren't superstars. They're developing players who potentially become really nice complementary 2 and 3 receivers. I don't see Sky Moore as a 1. Rice could be a really strong 2. But this is Travis Kelce's teams. You're right. Go look at the targets and the catches today. This is Travis Kelce's offense and Mahomes and Andy Reid. And now for a segment called Making It Look Easy, brought to you by Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm. Dak Prescott made it look easy. 4 touchdowns, 304 yards. It was one of my favorite picks of the weekend. Cowboys and Monday night, Detroit at home, bouncing back off that loss to the Ravens. Just like Dak made it look easy, Morgan & Morgan, over 100 offices nationwide. They've claimed over $15 billion for over 300,000 clients. They have more than 800 lawyers. They make it look easy. Fighting for the people for over 35 years. Fair compensation. They will fight at Morgan & Morgan for you. Winning in the NFL is hard. Hiring Morgan & Morgan is easy. Go to forthepeople.com/Colin or dial #529. Check out America's largest injury law firm, Morgan & Morgan, making it look easy. You know, I was thinking about the Green Bay Packers. So everybody privately in that building knows Jordan Love is not it. And they're not winning. Pittsburgh lost today, but Pittsburgh's winning more with Kenny Pickett. And so you probably think, well, they're in a better spot. But I don't think Kenny Pickett in the AFC is going to go toe-to-toe with Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Mahomes. Come on. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson. He's not. He's just not. He was viewed as a top of the third round pick by two GMs who I have great admiration for. One of them's got Super Bowls. Okay, he was a top of the third, middle of the third pick. But the Steelers needed a quarterback, and he was from Pittsburgh. So they're going to give him more years than they normally would because he's a local kid and because their defense is so good. They're winning games, although not today. And also Matt Canada is going to take the heat, the offensive coordinator. So Pittsburgh's going to stay with Kenny Pickett a while. He's not winning Super Bowls. He's not getting to AFC championships with the quarterbacks he is now facing in the AFC. Green Bay's in the weaker NFC. Jordan Love's from Utah State, small contract. Nobody in that building thinks he's the guy. What's the loyalty? The loyalty's to winning. Favre, Aaron Rodgers, they knew they weren't going to hit a legend 3 straight times. So you can say, oh, Green Bay's not winning, Pittsburgh's viable. But Pittsburgh, to me, because of Kenny Pickett's local connection and because he'll win enough games and you can blame Matt Canada, Steelers are going to stay with Kenny Pickett for years. And I just think he's a gutty kid. I've never been a huge fan. Greg Cosell likes him more than I do. He's fine. But he's not, there's no special. They didn't have a special arm, not specially athletic, not specially big. He's a guy who's got a little spirit to him. Well, he's a tough kid, a little swagger. I like it. But he's not great. But they're going to stay with him a long time, right? Pittsburgh's done this in between Bradshaw and Big Ben. They stuck with a lot of quarterbacks longer than they should have. Green Bay is going to move off Jordan Love. They're going to draft another quarterback. I mean, everybody in that building, they're not going to say it. Green Bay's full of nice people. It's the Midwest. He's a good kid. He's worked hard. They don't want to bury him. I mean, 2 weeks ago, he plays poorly. The coaches are, after the game, beside themselves. They fly back, talk amongst themselves. Next day, they blame themselves. Come on. He can't score on scripted plays in the first half. He's not it. Stop blaming play calling. You have the wrong quarterback when you're blaming play calling. He's not the guy. Good kid, not the guy. I mean, how many first halves are we going to watch scripted plays with an offensive coach? They can't even move the chains. Punt, 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 punt. So the wise guys love Green Bay this week. Chad Millman trying to talk me into it. I'm like, I can't. What I'm watching is a backup, not a franchise guy. Kenny Pickett, you could argue, is a lower tier franchise guy. I think it's a reasonable argument. Somewhere between 20 and 32. Jordan Love's, to me, is a backup. Nice kid, moves. Doesn't see the field particularly well. Judgment, that was always the knockout of college. But Green Bay is going to move off him rather quickly. They're going to draft a quarterback. They drafted a quarterback last year. They're going to draft a quarterback this year. And Green Bay doesn't have a lot of needs. They've got the receivers they like, the young receivers. They have the young tight ends they like. They need to get somebody to be the next David Bakhtiari. They've got backs that are capable. They have an elite corner. They have good guys in the front seven. Like Green Bay does not have a lot of big needs. Probably a left tackle, probably another tackle. It's a good year for tackles, by the way. You can get that in the second, third, fourth round. But you would think today, Pittsburgh's in a better spot. No. Green Bay's got no connection to Jordan Love, could move off him tomorrow. They're just nice people. It's a good organization. They want to give everybody a second or third chance. And because they've had so much success with Favre and Rodgers through the years, like Michael Jordan, he wins titles, he leaves, he comes back, he wins titles. You had those fans tied in for another 8 years, even if you're the worst team in the league. Green Bay is not losing any season tickets because they take a step back for a year or two. Not a lot to do in that town, and they've had so much success for 30 years with Favre and Rodgers. You're not going to draft 3 legends in a row. But they have no connection to Jordan Love. They're going to move off this pretty quick.